beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. Pass the beans like we used to do. Pass the beans. 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 The Beans Talk. Hey, Bean fam, we are coming back at you with another episode of the Beans Talk podcast. Hey. Yeah, we are 4 educators of color, bringing you raw, authentic conversation about society views and community engagement. Everybody, I'm Fabs.
I'm Steph. What's up, guys?
Oh, this juice is bomb. What's up, y'all? I'm Ro.
And this is TJ.
Yeah, man. I guess we could just go ahead and jump right on into the show. For sure. For the do now, I am the facilitator.
Oh.
Facilitator.
What's this fun?
Oh, my goodness. I know.
You don't?
Oh.
I had plenty of fun with it. At any rate, I remember when I was in high school, my English teacher, she created an activity for us, and we were supposed to decide as a group, we were supposed to choose certain items that we would bring to an island if we were ever stranded there. Mm-hmm. So I'm just wondering, for you guys, what are 3 important things that you would actually bring to an island if you were completely stranded?
These are things that are for practicality, like to get off the island, or like things that we
for your survival.
For your survival, okay.
For your survival, and however you view survival is on you.
But for practicality reasons, I would bring my phone, a lighter. Plus, like, your phone has mad pictures. That actually blends practicality and the sentimental thing too, because you can look at pictures. It's like,
how you gonna keep it charged?
Thank you.
I mean, it'll be charged for some time until it dies, but
and then what?
Well, and then it's useless. But hopefully I can get uses out of it in the time it's charged. I could call for help, or I could, play some songs. But yeah, now I would bring a lighter for fire. Mm-hmm. Maybe like a porno or something. So I don't know.
Some material.
Yeah, a porno flick or something.
And watch it, on a tree?
On the sand? Watch it in the sand?
A magazine.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
I don't know what I still am thinking about
too,
it.
babe.
I don't know what I'm going to bring. First thing I would definitely bring is Fabiola.
Aww.
She would be one of my things.
So you see her as an object.
Because I need her for, survival and love.
What that means is I would be doing everything.
Well, she said an object.
She's done like Outward Bound, so her survival score is pretty high, and she'll be great company, and I know I'll be able to make it through. Mm-hmm. The second thing that I would bring is
TJ, and then third row.
I could not be stranded on an island with TJ. I could not.
I'd be dead by the end of the.
He would be dinner. We would be cannibals. I know that was grim. Sorry, guys. The other 2 things I would bring are I need water. So lots of water. I mean, actually, I'm surrounded by water, and I could just boil water. So I need something that makes fire, so I can stay warm. Yeah, but I feel like a lighter will run out of fluid, so I need something like
overtime.
Flintstone.
You want to know why? My hands are so dry. You hear that?
So we'll bring Rose hands.
They do be ashy sometimes.
We'll bring Rose hands for fire, unlimited fire.
Ashes. It's already past fire at that point. I'm not sure what kind of use.
And the third thing I would bring is paper and pen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't say tuxedo. She'd just be starving in your apartment.
Food, I'm sure.
I would give tuxedo away to somebody else who could. She can't live on an island.
Yeah, she get eaten.
She can't live on an island.
Well, you can't give her
there are
away.
plenty of animals living on islands. She'd be able to survive.
She's a cat.
Sure. She'd be able to survive.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but it would be different. It'd just be like she's no longer a pet anymore. It's like survival of the fittest. Like I'll be hunting her. Like if I'm really hungry.
Tux, you hear that? My mom,
you could also eat fruit, or like because we are already a vegetarian.
You're right. You're right. Yeah,
We're not vegetarians quite yet, but that's fine.
What would I bring? I would bring a notebook and a pen because I need to write.
Yes.
I'm going to bring a knife, like a machete. Like I feel like I can use that for protection, for cutting off the fruits on the trees, for cutting up anything I see that's
the
alive.
most Haitian thing you've said. A machete.
A machete. First I said a knife, but I'm like, that's child's play. But nah, man, I want to be able to protect myself, and I have to write. So I want to be able to protect myself, like,
That's
physically,
true.
but I also know that writing helps me, like, protect myself mentally. So that's the 3 things: notebook, pen, machete.
So you have no intentions of getting off the island?
Nah, man.
You're stranded. There's no idea. There's no known idea of when you'd actually be getting off the island. You're stranded. This could be your life.
Well, that would change
just
my
be
3
home.
items. And okay, if it was because I was stuck there and not to get off, I would probably definitely in a notebook and a pen to write. And
Maybe we should do a pencil instead, because, like, a pen can run out of ink, but, like, a pencil I can just...
it's dull though. Oh, you could sharpen
it with
if
my
you had a knife.
machete.
But it also gets tiny, and then what do you use? Maybe a pack of pencils. Could you do that?
We're really thinking about this.
You could use the char from any burned wood.
And use your finger
Any burn
to write.
wood?
You could sharpen a piece of a stick and dip it if you want to, or like scrape some up and write.
Because I would not bring a phone. I was only going to bring a phone to like call someone for help.
Right.
But
There's no service. You're stranded.
Baby, you just didn't
So
hear the
pencil, paper. What else?
pencil and paper, a knife or some kind of thing to cut things and to sever.
So pretty much the same things that Ro would bring.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about you, Fabiola?
I would bring a machete for sure. I would bring a spark. It's like a thing to actually start fire, but you would have to like
That
hit
was
it
the
yourself
thing.
so that it could put sparks into whatever piece of wood or whatever it is that you're trying to light, so you could create fire.
Okay.
That's flint, right? Am I saying that wrong? Isn't that flint?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my third item. Sorry, Steph. I know you would want to be there.
I'll be there.
However, I'm not sure that there would be enough food for 2 of us. So what I would
I'll be there.
Got figgy. She's not bringing you, sis. What's the third thing?
I'll be there.
Well, the third thing I'm wondering, like I would bring a net because I'm surrounded by a body of water. I could probably have an endless supply of food.
Okay.
There, yeah, and then there's fruit. So now I have something savory and something sweet. And of course, we were traveling together, so Steph is there.
Okay. Nice save.
I told you guys that I would be there.
Nice save.
Yeah. So all right. Yeah. So that was our do now, and we are going to jump into the next segment,
And that is
the debate.
the book club.
Oh,
The book club, y'all.
Bab's mad,
So
confident
I
too.
know, right?
That's a bait.
For this segment, I bring to you a text. This is actually a short story that I read with my 8th grade class back in October. The story is called The Drummer Boy of Shiloh. And it's a story by Ray Bradbury. If you're not familiar, he is known for his fantasy work, but he did publish a collection of short stories in 1960 that were very different from his usual work. So just so you guys know, The Drummer Boy of Shiloh is about, it takes place during the 1800s, the Civil War, and there's the main character's name is Joby. I think he's Haitian, but I don't know. No, I'm just kidding.
all right.
During the Civil War. That makes a lot of sense.
No, we did help this country do a mad shit, yo. Shout out
Just Joby sounds like
Shout
foreign.
outs to
I don't
us.
know.
We did a lot.
Yeah, no.
You guys did, but not in the Civil War.
I just-
in Joby.
The name sounds foreign, so I thought Haitian. But anyways, his name is Joby, and he is the drummer. He's assigned to be a drummer in this war, and it's just about how he feels about being in the war as the drummer boy. So in the story, like one line that really stuck out to me, and one line I remember the students that I taught that this to pointed out, was a line on the first page. I'm just going to read it for a second, and then I'll ask you guys what you guys think of it and parts that stood out to you. So it says, the boy felt his family move yet further away in the dark, as if one of those great prairie burning trains had chanted them away, never to return, leaving him with his drum, which was worse than a toy, and the game to be played tomorrow or someday much too soon. So in this line, right, he's talking about his drum and he compares it to a toy. And I think that brings up one of the themes of this story that really resonated with students and me, is this feeling of feeling like isolated or disconnected with the people around you, and also feeling like you lack a purpose. And then in that line, he compares his drum, the thing that he's really the whole purpose of him being there, to a toy. A toy is like an insignificant thing you play with, but it really doesn't serve a purpose in like the bigger picture. And it just like highlights how he felt. And yeah, to me, that was just a springboard into like the major theme in the story. But what did you guys think of it?
I equally also really like this short story. So thank you for sharing, TJ. It was my first time getting a chance to read it. And this story reminds me a lot of, even though it doesn't take place over a large span of time in a person's life, it kind of just reminds me of the same feelings that you go through when you're coming of age and realizing what your purpose is and what you stand for. And I feel like there have been many times in my life where I felt like disconnected, and I'm like, well, what is my purpose? What am I here for? Like, what am I guess, put on this earth to really do? And so that resonated with me, that line that you picked out. And I think the line that I picked out too builds off of that. Where is this? On like the second page of it. And it says, for with the careless bones of the young men harvested by night and bundled around campfires were the similarly strewn steel bones of their rifles, with bayonets filled with fixed like eternal lightning lost in the orchard grass. Me, thought the boy, I got only a drum, 2 sticks to beat it, and no shield. And so there's this element of like comparison that's there too. Like the boy is looking around him and seeing all the other boys who have these big weapons that look very appealing and looks like it would be very substantive inside of war. And he's like, this is all I have. I just have this drum with 2 sticks. Like, what am I worth? And I feel like that also adds to our level of like evaluating ourselves and feeling insignificant, is that we're always in a constant state of comparing ourselves to what other people have and what they're doing, and it devalues the light that we foster and that we have, because I feel like all of us have something really beautiful to give to the world, but our light is dimmed or our growth is stunted by this constant cycle of like comparison.
Yeah, it is, man.
And the quote you read also highlights his vulnerability, because he points out he doesn't have a shield, and a shield is something you use to protect yourself.
Yes.
So it highlights how vulnerable he's feeling. Like in this time where, I mean, war is you're here 1 minute and gone the next, and he's feeling like very susceptible and vulnerable, and yeah, I think we've all felt that at some point.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this is a major description of life in general, I feel like, for a lot of people. There's like a certain point inside of your life where, you are struggling to find like a purpose, and what is your point of even being here, whether or not you might feel inadequate, and maybe even the work that you're doing feels as if there is no point to it. But for me, one of the lines that stick out was, it's on, I think, page 3. But it says, the boy turned on his side. A moth brushed his face, but it was a peach blossom. A peach blossom flicked him, but it was a moth. Nothing stayed put. Nothing had a name. Nothing was as it once was. And to me, what that really means, I'm just thinking, like, as a child, there are a lot of times when you might, like, everything seems colorful, like everything seems bright, everything seems a particular way, everything seems really, really simple. But then as life continues, like what you thought was the way that it was, as life continues, it's kind of like it completely shifts your view overall and in its entirety, and things aren't as pretty and as colorful as you might have thought that it was. And I don't know, it's completely like defaced at that point. And
Definitely.
so yeah,
That's deep. Yeah, peach blossom in a moth. Yeah.
That color contrast.
Yeah. I didn't even think about
At
that.
all. Even with the lines that y'all got out of the short story, I didn't even think about it like that. So thank you, all of y'all. The one part that resonated with me, is that we could tell that T-Jojo, can I call him that since he's Haitian?
Yeah, T-Jojo.
We cannot call him T-Jojo, guys.
So
I like it. It's exotic.
T-Jojo.
I like it.
So he seemed to be like, he admired the general a lot. And there was a time where him and the general were talking, and the general said, "You want to cry some more? Go on ahead. I did the same last night." And then T-Jojo says, "You, sir?" And the general says, "God's truth, thinking of everything ahead, both sides figuring the other side will just give up and soon, and the war done in weeks, and us all home. Well, that's not how it's going to be, and maybe that's just why I cried." I know for me, it made me think back to like the first time I saw like my sister cry, my older sister. And that's someone who I admire, who is just like, she is strength. And like, when I saw her cry, it just made her like human again. Like, and I think in this moment, T-Jojo saw the general, like someone who was so important. Like, you're just like me. You cried just as I did. And I know I was like, damn, like the general, his role is so important, but like he also has those human feelings that T-Jojo has.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a really good point to point out, Ro. And just so you know, for the listeners who haven't read the story, so the drummer boy, he doubts himself at the start of the story, and then he meets a general, and the general kind of reminds him why his role, although it may seem insignificant, is really important. And actually leads me to the next part. I just want to read this one part that the general says to Joby that really highlights like why he has a shift in character towards the end of toward the like midway through the story. He says, "If he, Joby, beat slow tomorrow, the heart would beat slow in the men. They would lag by the wayside. They would drowse in the fields of their muskets. They would sleep forever after that. And in those same fields, their hearts slowed by a drummer boy and stopped by the enemy lead. But if he beat sure, steady, even faster rhythm, then their knees would come up in a long line down over that hill, one knee after the other, like a wave on the ocean shore." And then it goes on. But like, just like, I think it's interesting how, this kid, he's an adolescent who's doubting himself, which we know is common in like the adolescent age. You doubt who you are and question your purpose. Then it took an adult, someone who also showed him that it's okay to have those feelings of insecurity, because he had them too, because he was crying, and kind of reminded him, hey, like your role, right? You don't have to have the biggest gun or a shield to be important. You can have this. I mean, a drum is a pretty passive instrument, especially during this time of battle, right? You wouldn't see a drum as like a purposeful thing. But it just reminds me that like just the importance of like knowing your worth beyond what is kind of a common perception. So that line stuck out to me.
I really like the general's character too, because for me, it reminds me of how important it is to make sure you have some solid people inside your circle.
In your army.
And inside your army, because if Joby, I'm not calling him T-Jojo. I was just about to, but I was like,
just call him that.
If Joby didn't have like the general to have this conversation and sort of instill with him some words of affirmations, then his perception of himself never would have changed. And I just think about that all the time. When I'm not in a really great place or when I'm doubting myself, I have some really great people around me who like believe in me and remind me about all of the reasons why I'm capable and important and my value and worth inside this world. And it really just gets me like remotivated. And so it's important to make sure that you have some solid people who are in your ear. Like whatever you have pouring into you or coming into you is what you get out. So I just think about a plant in some cases. Like you want to make sure that you're getting water, poured into you so that you can actually grow. Rather than having something that's dead pour into you and then it just produces weeds. So I admire the general's character and one showing that you need like strong people around you and also like redefining what it means to be strong. Like showing vulnerability or crying does not make you weak. It actually strengthens you and is necessary for growth. So yeah.
Yes, and with that, having the biggest, what do you call it, the bayonet?
Yes.
Or having the shield is not what makes you strong either. Like
exactly. Having the weapons.
Yeah, having the weapons is not what gives you strength. Like I think Jojo, malgré even not having those weapons, like he was still strong. He's a necessary piece. When the general, just think about how differently the conversation would have went if the general was like, yeah, if the general was like, yo, you're useless. He played a very important role. Yes, I co-sign that.
I don't know. I've kind of felt like the general was like, symbolic of like your subconscious, or a transition. We're given an image of a young boy that is becoming a man in some sense or in some aspect. And he's obviously not well equipped entirely for this war that we call life. And the general is something like a subconscious and also a symbol of the transition that he's going from, young boy into young man and one day into an adult. But it's safe to say that he is okay to cry now, but to also understand like where life is actually going to go. And so you need to learn to be able to pull yourself out of that hole. I don't know. I didn't view it as like, it could also be seen as somebody that's like external or a group of other people. And I completely agree with you on that. And the way that I had also taken it was the fact that it was more of a symbol of his transition from like young boy into like going into this war, this life that's definitely going to be a roller coaster. There's going to be some beautiful things and some things that you think is gold and is glittering, but then at the same time, it's absolutely not. And that's just going to smack you down. But you got to figure out how you're going to get through it, cope with it, and rise from it.
But I felt it was more so like, I feel that part too, but I felt like there was a discovery of something valuable within the boy. It wasn't just like, oh, how am I going to get through this war and survive it? It was like, how am I leading this war with a drum into success? And so that's why I think it transcends just beyond about like how you're moving in life and like transgressing through it. It's like, what things do you have inside of you that is pretty much transforming life itself?
Yes.
Like I thought it was just more of him becoming a man. I thought it was like, you have
An
this
effect on other
gift
people. Yep.
that can change the world. And I'm here to help you realize that.
Yeah, because the drum is essentially like, right, it doesn't affect the boy. It was not about, it's about like how his drumming will impact the people around him and make their morale keep it up. And that's like a different thing than just like, if it were like helping him, it'd be different, but it helped other people. So that's like a gift he's giving, something that he has in him or something that he has that he doesn't think is important, but it transforms other people and affects other people. I think that's something we can all keep in mind too, that is not always about, it's sometimes what you can give to other people that makes you special too.
Yeah. And you might not even know like what it is. And that's why I really admire the like general's character. And I think he could live in the subconscious as well. Like sometimes we have to go through like this transition where we realize our own gifts or we realize our own light. But there has to be some sort of like positive structures around, either within yourself or externally, that leads you to that type of discovery, to feel like you have what can water you, to realize that what you have is transformative and can change other people's lives. And so I don't know, this was very touching. It reminded me of just like my own transition through life and where I feel like I'm going and where I've been.
Yeah, definitely.
And in the story, if I don't know if you caught this, but at the start of the story, the boy Joby is holding his drum face down on his chest, and by the end, he turns it up toward the sky, as if he's embracing, as if he's embraced who he is in the story. So
embracing his responsibility to the whole army.
Yeah, I did read that, and I saw that he got.
I didn't either.
Yeah, it says at the bottom, it says, I'm going to read a little bit before that too, because I felt like that was also something that was important. It said, Joby lay for a moment, staring but unable to see where the man had gone. He swallowed. He wiped his eyes. He cleared his throat. He settled himself. Then, at last, very slowly and firmly, he turned the drum so that it faced up toward the sky. And I felt that was a very, very powerful part. And I agree with you with that on TJ.
Yeah, that imagery.
You know why? Fabiola, that piece you read, wiping the face, clearing his throat, and then pushing on. Like I feel like that's what we got to do in this war
that we call life.
Man. Like shit gets rough. You want to cry.
You do cry.
You do cry.
Yeah. Go ahead and cry.
You want to give up. You question your purpose. You question why you're put here. At the end of the day, we
keep pushing forward.
But you gotta also, you gotta wipe your face. Understand and remember that you're still valuable. You still bring something really good to the table.
You do.
Where you can give back and help bring other people, through the thick of it. Because Lord have mercy, we're all going through the thick of it. But yeah, that was a very, very important part of the story. I really enjoyed that.
I have a quick question while we're talking about this, because I think that like remnants of this kept like popping up inside of our conversation, and I just wonder where people's perception is on it. This idea about like picking up and moving forward and just keeping on with the pace. Do you feel like that's something that people should be able to do for themselves? Or do you think that is something that is okay for you to look for external support for? Because I hear like two versions. Like for me, external support has really helped me get to a place where I can keep moving on. But then like in some of the comments that, I've heard Fabiola make, it's like, no, you need to know how to do that for yourself, regardless if the external support is there or not. So, I don't know. I just wonder what other people think about that.
Go ahead. I want you to go, TJ.
I agree with Fabiola. I think that there's nothing wrong with getting external support, but I think ultimately there's something like a grit that I think that people need to have. Because when I think of seeking external support, I think of religion and how people see, like a lot of times people use that as a crutch to like, because they need the validation, they need like the external like support, and then it ends up becoming like relying on it. I don't know. I just think that at the end of the day, that is something that you should instill in yourself, especially if you have children. If I had a kid, I would like try to instill that in them like organically. But yeah, I agree with Fabiola.
I feel like you need a little bit of you need some from both. Like I'm thinking like I can tell myself like you got to make it, sis. You got to push on through, keep on going, don't stop till you get enough. But I feel like that would be hard if people around me are like you can't do this, or like like I don't know. I think having negative people in your army or like in your tribe, no matter how like hard you think you can go for it, like I think those external factors like your tribe still matters. So I think I need a little bit of both. I understand though what you're talking about, TJ and Fabiola tu bebe, is that like le supposé un don, like it's supposed to be already within you. But I know I keep I keep myself around y'all because I know like y'all are those external supports, and I need y'all, and I need myself to keep pushing forward.
Yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump in.
Yeah.
So for me, I am solution oriented, and I feel like that could be a problem oftentimes. But so I think it's important to be able to, which I actually struggle with, it's important to be able to reach out to your tribe, like you described it, Ro. I think it's extremely important to be able to feel like you can do that. I also think it's extremely important that if the person is not willing to do that for themselves, then no matter how much other people might talk to it, it becomes irrelevant. It becomes diluted, because at a point it's like what you're saying, it's not like your words will be different. It's not like the message will change. The message remains the same, and unless if the person that might be struggling through something is willing to receive that and apply that and adapt to it, it's kind of like, that means that you're not really moving anywhere. You're not moving forward. You're not actually pressing on. I feel like it's festering. It becomes something that you become victim to. And it also, I think you did bring something up in terms of reliance. And I think that's a part of it. It does make it so that you become more reliant on it, and it appeases you in that moment. You feel great after it. You feel supported after that. But then it's like, what's next? It's like a person that might be struggling with their weight and really and is like, and is complaining about let me point out, complaining about their weight, right? So if you're complaining about your weight, I might not say, I don't understand every single last thing that you're going through. I don't know your insecurities. I'm not walking inside of your shoes. The most that I can do at this point is say, wow, yes, I understand it must be difficult the way that you're describing. I can't even imagine. But then like I can sit there and just be an ear. And if that's the case, I would prefer it if I'm a very literal person. I would prefer it if you just tell me you need an ear. You know what I mean? Like I can't say that I wouldn't give you any solutions, because otherwise I feel like I'm stuck if you're stuck. And I don't like the feeling of being stuck. I hate it. That gives me like a level of anxiety. So I think it's important to have a group of people that you can come to feel supported. And I think that it's also on an individual or a person to be able to take in and receive that information and find a way to actually use that inside of their life so that they can reach happiness. Because I think everybody is trying to strive to attain happiness in some way, shape, form, or fashion. But I think if it's not in you, like for back to the example of the person that might be overweight, looking and seeking to lose weight, it's on you to actually go ahead and put what you want on your plate that will be somewhat appealing to the palate, but far better for your body. You know what I mean? Or go. It's on you to actually go ahead and step into the gym. And yeah, you might have some fallbacks, and I'll, as a friend, as your external support, I'll recognize that. But then I'll value so much more if I see that you actually managed to get back into the gym on your own. Because I can, I'm like, hey, let's go to the gym. I could say, let's go to the gym on Thursday, right? And then if you're like, yeah, we'll go to the gym, you feel great at that point because I'm like motivating you, right? But then when Thursday comes and you're like, I don't know, I don't really feel like it anymore. I'm not going to keep wanting to be like every Thursday. I might do it a few more times, but there's going to be a point where I'm not going to ask you to go to the gym anymore because I don't think that you're serious about taking this step. And so I think it's important for you to have the external support. But I feel like it's far more important for you to have it in you to not victimize yourself to the situation, allow it to fester and never grow from it. It's just, I don't know.
I agree with that. My perspective was more so thinking about at what point. I think that you need external support of course, if you're gonna like apply the advice and like move forward, I'm just starting to think about this issue that I see exists inside the Black community, especially amongst like Black women. This idea that you have to be strong and you're always like holding in all of your like trials and tribulations, and you're pushing forward, and not really tending to self-care. And it's like, at what point do you say like, I'm no longer like holding this in anymore? Because that's also equally damaging, and I'm like seeking support. So I am more so encouraging people, not necessarily the conversation about what you do when you get the support. It's just like seeking the support at all. We've gotten in this pattern of where we just feel like we have to do everything ourselves, or it makes us look vulnerable or look weak when we lean on somebody else for support. And I don't think that's true. I think there needs to be a balance of like moving forward yourself and like working through it yourself. But when you get to a point where you feel like you're in a dark hole and you really don't know how to climb out, like, don't just stay in that hole and just say, okay, I'm going to find a way to like work through this and like suffer in silence. Like, reach out to people that you trust and that you love to be even just a listening ear, or to provide you with something on how to move forward. So I just want to debunk this myth that in order for you to be this strong and wonderful person, that you have to do all this internal transformational work and that's it. I mean, you do have to do that to move forward, but
not alone.
You don't have to do it alone. And a lot of people think that makes you look good or makes you look stronger or better because you've moved through something alone, and it can be very damaging. And so that was my perspective on it. But I definitely agree. Like, when you get inside of a pattern of victimizing yourself, like, that's a different story. And like, are you now just like using the space of a support group to complain and not necessarily move forward? But I'm really trying to target the people who are not reaching out at all.
Which I definitely fail to do. I fail to reach out often when I'm dealing with like situations, and that's dangerous. It's very dangerous for you to be by yourself inside of those instances. And I don't think I've ever come to a point where I've been able to like just express it. And I think that's probably why I interpreted this short story as the general, as something more of a subconscious, because that is my general. You know what I mean? That's the person that's actually, or the voice, spirit, or whatever it is that you want to describe it, a voice that's actually controlling my decisions when I find a way to, like, after I've cried, if that happens, after I've gone through the issue, I start to reason, and I'm like, listen, Fabiola, like, pull yourself up. You know, it's oftentimes it's myself, because I go through the battle solo dolo. And that's by choice. It's not to say that if I brought it to Sav or somebody else that they wouldn't help me. That was actually one of the things I think I had you do, like an evaluation, and I think you were one of the people that mentioned that I needed to speak up more about or become more vulnerable, and that's something that I struggle with doing. So you bring out like a really, really great point. It's interesting how I interpreted the story ultimately as a result.
We all have our, different perspectives.
Yeah, man.
I always love these book clubs. We only done 2 so far, but
Yeah,
they're like so deep.
They are. They are.
Definitely raises other conversations. So thank you, TJ, for bringing that short story.
I didn't believe
a lot of
in you.
revelations.
On camera.
You didn't believe in Terrence? Whatever happened to believe? That's what this whole story is about, is believing.
I don't need external support. Trust me. I can,
You don't need me as your general?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know.
I cannot. That was a great story.
For real,
TJ.
for real,
Thank you
brother.
for bringing that to the table. Let's go
For
ahead
real,
and jump
brother,
into the
man.
word of the day.
Dang, that was quick for Viola.
Wait, did you have more?
She said that bad quick. I was just like disoriented for a second. Okay.
'Cause you froze.
Yeah. Thank you, TJ, for bringing that to the forefront. And I have a word of the day that I think kind of fits perfectly with what we just talked about. And it is a quote. It says, sometimes we need to be brave enough to outgrow the life we've built.
Let's say it again.
Sometimes we need to be brave enough to outgrow the life we've built.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
It reminds me of just being, getting complacent and getting comfortable
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
in something because you're used to it, and
Right.
having the bravery to like go on a limb and take a risk because those pay off.
Yeah. And what you believe to be the right way that whole time might be the reason why you're being held back. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I was thinking of it. Yeah, like mindset. It could go towards actions. It could go towards your mindset. Like any of us challenging what we've learned, how we grew up, what we believed is an act of bravery and courage. Just like this young drummer boy, finding the courage to pretty much walk to the beat of his own drum. It takes a tremendous amount of bravery and courage for us to do the same and discover and ask questions like, why are we the way we are? Why do we make the decisions we make? And interrogating whether those things are what we want to be a part of the self that we want to be as we grow and changing it if not. So I think it's just a courageous act for you to always do inner work on oneself.
Absolutely. Reflection is key.
It is, man.
It is key. Thank you for bringing that word of the day.
Thanks, Steph.
You're welcome. And that means you guys have to do your homework since I brought a great word of the day.
Yes, ma'am.
You should be doing your homework anyway. If you haven't, you get a 0.
No half credit? No half credit?
No half credit.
Partial
around
credit?
here.
No.
I feel like we had a conversation about that last season about half credit and
Having
partial
zeros
credit.
and not giving out zeros and something.
Yes. So yes, that means that you need to get on your laptop, phone, tablet, whatever you got. Go to Instagram, follow us at the Beans Talk Podcast.
Yes.
Hit that link in bio, and you will find all of the major platforms that we are on right now, including YouTube, where you see us, fist fighting. I'm just joking. We're not fist fighting. But yeah. Hit us up, guys. Let us know what you think about this short story. And if you are an educator out there, this might be a great story for you to share with your class and help them unpack as well. So, love you guys.
Love y'all. That was another episode of the Beans Talk.
Ciao.
We out.
Bye.
Peace out, crew.
Hey!